Hello everyone, I'm the MECCG collector. Normally when I do a video, it's a review or a booster opening or an explanation or a description of some sort. However, today I'd like to do something a little bit different. I'd like to just talk about something that's been on my mind recently and I'd like to share it with you. Now, if the words aren't interesting enough by themselves, of course, I'll be opening up and displaying my Middle-earth CCG collection, which is actually what caused me to consider the topic today. Now, I was fortunate enough to find this collection of cards on eBay for a fairly good price. With most of the games I've collected, Star Wars, Magic the Gathering, Lord of the Rings card game, Young Jedi, I played Yu-Gi-Oh!, never really collected it, but with most games, I actually go through the collecting process. I would go down to my game store, I'd buy booster packs, I'd open them up, and I'd build out my collection that way. I'd trade cards away with friends, play decks, and so on. But Middle-earth was a little bit different. In a rare instance, it is a game which I essentially purchased outright. I never truly collected the cards, and if I did, it was to fill out gaps in my existing extensive collection. In this case, I happened upon an eBay auction. The Middle-earth sets were sold by the lots, but they were under-keyworded, I guess, under-described, and so there wasn't a lot of focus on them, not a lot of attention, and I was able to get many of my cards in great condition for a pretty good price. Now, the reason they were being sold in bulk like that, that blank card is actually a stand-in for the One Ring, but it is, as you can see, it's still a Middle-earth card. The reason I was able to buy this in bulk is because it came as the result of an estate sale, and that got me to thinking. Usually, when you have an estate sale, it's not like a rummage sale, it's not like someone selling off their collection. Usually you have an estate sale because the owner of those items is no longer around to appreciate those items. So somehow, somewhere, I had come upon the work of someone who is no longer around to collect and to enjoy his cards. And additionally, card collecting is not really what I'd consider an old man's activity, you know? Chances are whoever collected this was not elderly at the time of his parting with this collection, and well, that's unfortunate in its own right. But at the same time, he cared for his collection. You could tell he cared for his collection, because when I received it, the cards weren't all just in a stack, rubber banded up. They weren't just a mishmash of cards. They were in card sheets. Not card sheets like these, but the standard BCW or Ultra Pro or other plastic card sheets, that 9 card pages that we're all familiar with. Excuse me as I move on to my black bordered cards. Now, as I had said before, he clearly cared about his collection very much. And, well, like we all do, I suppose, we're all collectors, and we all collect perhaps to play, but also for the sheer joy of collecting. That's why there's still a market for mint condition cards. It's why there's a market for near mint cards, because people want these things, these pieces of paper with ink on them, with color on them, to be in as high quality as possible and as good of condition as possible. And we take great pains. We have the card fresh from the pack. We sleeve it. We double sleeve it. Why? Is it for anyone else? Is it to sell them later? In some cases, yes, but in many cases, no. We buy the cards for our own personal interest, and we preserve them for our own personal interests. And really, what is the legacy of a card collector? It's not like antiques. You know, you collect artifacts from medieval times or ancient texts. It's not like that, where there is value worldwide and well understood historical value. It's not things of intrinsic value like jewelry or even money. And again, there's the One Ring card. Really, card collections, as with many collections, only have the value that we give them individually. In my case, this is not nostalgic value. In Star Wars, it absolutely is. I collect the Star Wars CCG because it was part of my upbringing. It's part of my time as a kid. It brings back fond memories of watching the movies for the first time, of the excitement for when the prequels came out, of going to my friend's house after school to build decks with his Star Wars card collection. So in that case, it's simply me reliving a memory, but I don't really have that particular connection to the Middle-earth CCG. It's something that I found appealing, and it's something I wanted complete. But what about the previous owner of these cards? Did he grow up reading Tolkien? Did he look forward to the Lord of the Rings movies coming out with great anticipation? I mean, was he collecting these for reasons like that, for his own nostalgia, for his own reliving of childhood? I don't know. All I know is that these cards were very important to him. And you think how often that value does not go on to the next generation or the next owners. You think of boxes and boxes of Magic card collections, or you think of rare cards like Black Lotuses just getting thrown away or torn up or who knows what, because either they were lost or because the person didn't know what they were looking at and thought, oh, a bunch of kids' cards, it's beaten up old cardboard, who wants that? You think of all the possibilities that could happen to our collections after we're gone, and they may not return the value that either the market demands, in the case of Magic, certainly, or in the case of ourselves, the value that we give these cards and the value that they have to us. So, part of the reason that I do this, it's certainly not the main reason, but part of the reason I am so cautious and so careful with these cards, part of the reason I go to great lengths to complete the sets that were missing. For example, the Wizards limited edition, which you saw earlier in this binder, was not complete. It was missing a couple of cards. Part of the reason that I personally go to complete this is because, there's a little bit of satisfaction in taking up a quest, or if you want, an adventure, if we want to go into fantasy terms, that someone else began but couldn't finish for whatever reason. And maybe his estate sale was just as simple as he has a big house, money got tight, and now he's moving to a smaller place. And he has to get rid of things quickly. Hopefully it was that. But even if it was, I mean, that's a huge shame that, excuse me as I get the next binder here. But even if it was that simple, it's still a huge shame that someone should have to part with their cards unwillingly, before they were ready. But I like to think that I picked up where he left off, He really cared about these cards. He made sure they were well protected. He made sure they were well ordered. He made sure they were in great condition and all that. And, and by doing this, by buying them, by taking the cards, by double sleeving the cards, by putting them in these card sheets, which I then put in zipper binders with desiccant packets to keep moisture from getting to them. In some way, I'm maintaining his legacy, I am doing what he could not, or in another sense, I am doing what he could. He could not keep his collection, but it had value to him or her. I mean, it could be anyone. It could be a woman. It could be a child who probably wasn't a child if it was in the estate sale, but it could be anyone doing this. And I'm picking up where they left off, and that's a satisfying thought to me. And it does make me think about my own legacy. I have no intention of parting with any of these cards anytime soon. I sometimes doubles, I'll try to trade away or something like that. But as far as these complete collections, I know they have value. I know that it's an old game that is rare now, that you're not likely to find complete sets anymore. Certainly not complete sets in pristine condition. So there's value to these. Of course there's value. I mean, you're seeing me go through the Lidless Eye complete set. I got in its entirety for a very reasonable price. And I know it would go for at least several $100s now. And now you see the Against the Shadow set, which is valuable in its own right, with rare ones like the Ethel Stone, and I feel like there's another one around here. Rare ones like Farmer Maggot. So these all have value in their own right, but I'm keeping them because of their value to me. My value as a collector. I'm not hoarding them. I'm not trying to corner the market. I'm not waiting for my big moment to, just before the market goes down, people lose interest in them, to sell them and make a huge windfall to get my investment back. That's not why I do it. And I sure hope it wasn't why the last guy did it either. This has value to me as a complete collection, and it's the same way that Star Wars has value to me as a complete collection. I understand there are people out there who will, just for fun, because they don't have any respect for that sort of thing, and you could argue that it's not the sort of thing that needs to be respected, but they'll go and they'll buy collections and they'll break them up, either because the individual cards have value or just because they enjoy introducing more chaos into the world, And that's not for me. I think, too, and I know it's not truly realistic, but I think there's a sense in my mind that, I'm trying to get the camera to focus, I see it doesn't want to. There we go, and right there. There's a sense in my mind that as long as I have a complete collection of cards, I can make any deck I want. And of course, that's not true. There's a card, this is the Balrog set right now. There's a very valuable card in here called Longbottom Leaf. And many people have multiple copies of it, if they can afford it and if they can find it, and multiple copies of it in play decks. So just simply having a complete set of cards is not sufficient to build any deck you want. But I think for me, there's that sense of, not power, but opportunity and potential in having complete sets. Whether it's Middle-earth, whether it's Star Wars, whether it's Lord of the Rings. If you can get with Magic, more power to you. But no matter what it is, we collect for so many of our own reasons. Whether it's to relive a cherished childhood memory, whether it's for the sake of money, unfortunately, whether it's for that feeling of potential, or even that feeling of completeness. We all have our reasons, and they're personal reasons. They're reasons that, unfortunately, we can't leave behind. But if we're lucky, we will leave behind the collections themselves to someone who shares that dream, shares that desire, and can carry it on. So with that, I'm the CCG Collector. Thank you very much for staying with me these 15 minutes. I hope you feel the same, and I certainly welcome your comments. But until next time, thanks for watching.